What's today's date?
It is the 4th.
Yep,
School starts in a week.
I know. So excited. All these little kids, ready to go. I'm
Yep.
ready.
Some of us who have jobs at the school are not ready to go.
All the grandkids in start. Grady's starting tomorrow.
I got a call last week from Miranda going, our new head cook may have jury duty the first day of school. Could you sub in the kitchen?
Who is the
I don't know. Jury duty. So fortunately, she'll know about 8 o'clock if she has jury duty. So if she does, then I'll go in then.
Yeah.
So I'll be able to run my bus and then come home and then find out and then run up. If she has jury duty, then I'll end up going up and working in the kitchen, which I mean, it's a day's work and it's money. That's always nice, but it's funny how much they need subs.
And there's not very many around anymore. No.
It's a whole lot better than it was. There was a period of time where it was like
for everything.
me and like 2 other people. Now they've got a pretty full crew. I didn't actually sub all that much last year. But all right, let's go ahead and get started. So if you'll recall, chapter 13 starts a taunt against Babylon, about their destruction after they have played the rod against Judah. And so, as we move forward, Isaiah here in chapter 14, starting in verse 3, says, when the Lord has given you rest from your pain and turmoil and the hard service with which you were made to serve, you will take up this taunt against the king of Babylon. So here is you getting to gloat over what's happened. Okay. So, that last path of verse 4 starts this song, and it says, how the oppressor has ceased. The insolent fury ceased. The Lord has broken the staff of the wicked and the scepter of rulers. So their taunt is, look what God has done to this group that has overrun us. Okay. The Lord has broken the staff of the wicked. He's broken the scepter of the rulers. He has taken their power and their authority. And it says that struck the peoples in wrath with unceasing blows, that ruled the nations in anger with unrelenting persecution. So we get this idea of what the Babylonians were like. They were violent and cruel. And so now God has struck them. The whole earth is at rest and quiet. They break forth into singing. The cypresses rejoice at you, the cedars of Lebanon, saying, since you were laid low, no woodcutter comes up against us. So the idea is, now that you've been destroyed, no one comes and cuts our trees anymore because they don't need the wood. Okay. So Sheol beneath us. Now remember that Sheol, and we kind of need to make sure we understand the difference. Because some people will say, well, Sheol is hell, or Sheol is Hades. That's not really an understanding that is brought up in Scripture at this point. Sheol is the grave.
So what?
It's the grave. Okay. Now there is an idea that is beginning to formulate of this idea of a place where the dead are. And remember that later, this is kind of the discussion that moves into when Jesus teaches about it, that there's the place of persecution and there's the bosom of Abraham. Okay, but David in the Psalms talks about, if I go to the grave, if I go to Sheol, if I go to death, then you're still there. Okay. So that's what this means. It's the grave. It's the place of death. So Sheol beneath is stirred up to meet you when you come. So the grave is opening its arms to meet you. So happy you're coming. It rouses what?
Not creepy.
Yeah. And by the way, it rouses the shades to greet you, all who were leaders of the earth. So So your buddies that can't went before you, they're going to be there to say hello whenever you get down there.
Shades is buddies.
Like ghosts, like spirits, the spirits of those who've died before. Okay. It raises from their thrones all who were kings of the nation. So the grave is raising up all the people who thought they were kings and thought they were powerful, but yet what happened to them? They died. And then notice, all of them will answer and say to you, so all these spirits in the grave of kings and leaders, you too have become as weak as we. You've become like us. Your pomp is brought down to Sheol, the sound of your harps. Now, notice, because remember, it's the grave. Maggots are laid as a bed beneath you, and worms are your covers. So there is literally a very graphic idea of this idea of going into death.
So your covers.
Uh-huh. So, but notice it is a very realistic depiction of what happens when you go in the grave.
Yeah. The worms eat.
Yeah. Maggots and worms.
Maggots and worms. We're all just food for something.
Now, not so much now because they do sealed caskets.
Yeah.
Well, and you have remember that most caskets now are hermetically sealed.
What's that mean?
That no air in, no air out.
Oh, really? I did not know that.
If you ever watch one of the funerals, when they close the casket lid, there is a crank that cranks that lid down, and there's a seal that keeps anything from getting out and in. And the bodies actually last for a long time. Now, that is a very American thing.
Is it?
Well, if you think about it in Europe, there's kind of a time frame. The U.S. is one of the few places in the world where you have permanent burial. So like in some European nations, they bury you and use that you have ownership of that grave for a decade or whatever. And then they can use it again. And they'll pull you out, cremate the rest of the remains. And
Mary was telling me about how her family in Puerto Rico, they like own a plot, but they just bury the next person on top of the next. Like they just stack them. Yeah, they just stack them. Which I thought was super creepy.
now in New Orleans, I don't know if you've ever seen this. It's actually interesting to look at. So in New Orleans, you don't bury anybody. Well,
Is that why they have all the mausoleums above ground and stuff?
you can't bury anyone in New Orleans. Because if you bury them, then the first time there's a big rain, your coffin pops out of the ground and floats down the street.
I would totally dig that.
But the rules are that you can't bury more than one person in a year. Can't put more than one person in a year in your family crypt. So if you have multiple people die in the space of a year, then you have to store them. Else they have places where you can do this. You have to store your loved one
in like a cold storage.
till it's kind of like a funeral home, but like and a lot of them are cremated. I always think of this movie, but when you see the Bond movie Live and Let Die, they go in this place and there's this wall of openings, and it's memorial, like they're cremated, and then their urn is in this little, it's a wall. And so
Wow.
Yeah, like a post office. But understand the idea though still is for here, while those cultures differ, because there's still those that burn and all of that go on. But the idea that is being brought up here is that for all your power, for all your glory, for all your pomp, for all of the things that you had going for you, now you're just like every other dead person.
Yeah. Because that's one thing nobody can escape is that.
Right. Now, we come to verse 12. Okay. And verse 12 is an important distinction here because there are some beliefs that come into this that we need to make sure we discuss. There are scholars who believe that starting in verse 12, we are no longer talking about the king of Babylon.
What are we talking about then?
We are talking about the devil.
Oh, that's why it says fallen from heaven.
Uh-huh.
You should be
In
shocked.
fact, and I don't think it's this one. I was trying to make sure that I remembered which one. There's another one in Ezekiel. Okay, and Ezekiel is the one where we get the name Lucifer.
Really?
Is another passage kind of like this in Ezekiel, I believe. I could be wrong, but that is that's how I remember it. But notice how you have fallen from heaven, O day star. Now, what does that mean? It's O morning star.
Yeah,
Okay.
it's the son of the morning.
Okay, son of the dawn. How you are cut down to the ground, you who laid the nations low. You said in your heart. Okay.
This is the devil or something.
So here is my thing. I think that there's probably some connection. I don't necessarily think that what we're looking at is an idea that this is specifically the devil. I think he's still talking about Babylon. But what I think he is doing is he is speaking of the attitude of a nation that is in rebellion against God.
Like the devil.
So then that would certainly fit.
Yeah.
The reason that I bring that up and the reason that I say it that way is this. This is one of those passages, and like I said, I think the other one is in Ezekiel. That is where is the biblical evidence for Satan having already been thrown down from the heavens. Okay, it's these two passages, and it's a statement by Jesus. And if you'll recall, the disciples come back to Jesus and say, "Oh my word, it was incredible. We cast out demons and we healed the sick and we did all these things." And Jesus goes, "Well, I saw Satan fall down from heaven."
What's that?
I'll have to look. I don't remember the exact place.
Oh
So, hold on, let me look. I can do it this way. There are those moments where there's one that you absolutely know, and yeah.
But you can't figure out where.
You know, you've got so
What?
much in your head, you I don't have.
I don't either, dude. I really don't. But that brings me to a question. Like, if the devil was already thrown out of heaven and on earth, because we know he walks on earth. How
Yes.
is it that he gets to go in front of God?
Now you are thinking through what we're trying to discuss.
Okay.
Okay. We know that there is a point in Revelation where it talks about Satan being cast out of heaven.
And I took that to mean that that's when he gets like the doors get closed, he no longer gets
Right.
to come in front of God. Because
So
all in Job, he's up in there like, let me go tempt Job, and he's talking to God. So if he was already cast down, then how is it that he gets to go back to heaven?
that is a major part. It is Luke 10:18. So let's turn there real quick. Right. 18. So it says starting in verse 17, it says the 72 returned with joy. So now what this is it is a group of the 12 apostles and a group of disciples numbering up to 72. And God has sent, and Jesus has sent them out to do ministry. And they come back and they go, oh my gosh, even the demons are subject to us in your name. We were even able to cast out demons. And he said to them, I saw Satan fall like lightning from heaven.
What verse is that?
Verse 18
Verse 15.
of Luke chapter 10. You're in 21. Luke chapter 10.
Yes, and told them I saw Satan fall.
Okay, now I heard a guy say it this way, and I want to make sure I say this. It could mean what some scholars believe it means, that obviously Jesus is saying he saw Satan fall from heaven.
Yeah.
Okay, that he was cast out after he rebelled against God. Okay, we know that there is some level of that. Okay, because it tells us, and once again in Revelation, remember that it says that a third of the stars in the heavens were cast down. It's talking about the demon, that a third of the angelic host are cast down and become demons. And we know that some of that occurred prior to the story, because we know there are demons already.
Yeah, I was
Okay.
gonna say.
However, there is this level of access, and you've said it. The thing that some scholars will look at this passage, particularly in Luke, and say, it doesn't make sense that Jesus is going, oh, well, the demon's having subject to you is no big deal. I saw Satan fall from heaven.
Which is
That-
very
that-
possible
that-
because
that
he was
doesn't-
with God.
okay. But does that sound like Jesus's personality?
No, he doesn't gloat like that.
Okay. So what is he doing? Well, my opinion on this is he going, yeah, they do have it, because as you were casting demons out, I saw it was like Satan was falling from heaven. Okay. But he says, behold, I've given you authority to tread on serpents and scorpions. It's Jesus. Okay. So then he goes on, behold, I've given you authority to tread on serpents and scorpions and over the power of the enemy. Nothing shall hurt you. And then he kind of plays this. He says, nevertheless, do not rejoice that the spirits are subject to you. So what does he mean? He goes, look, your joy should not be in the fact that the demons are subject to you. Your joy should not be in what
You could do
you can, the powers that I've given you.
Warfare.
Right. Well, but notice what he's saying is, yes, you have authority over demons because I have authority over the devil.
Yeah.
And I've given you that authority so that you can tread on serpents and scorpions and over all the power of the enemy. But your rejoicing shouldn't be on that authority, but instead should be on the fact that your names are written in heaven.
Yeah.
Ooh, that's interesting.
See, so watch. What he's saying is, don't put all your eggs in the basket of look what I can do to the demons, but instead go, my name's written in the Lamb's Book of Life.
Which is a much better reason to joyful.
See, there's an old and of course it's one of those fun. I don't know how many of you remember the Christian artist Carmen. He's an 80s guy and a big deal in the 80s. But he had this song that he did called Witch's Invitation. And basically what he does is he tells his story. And it is my understanding it was a true story that he got invited, or it was a pastor that had told him this story and he made it into a song. And this pastor got invited by the town warlock, okay, to come to his house. And so he comes to his house and this warlock begins to show him all these newspaper clippings of him healing people and cursing people and all these things of him and his demonic power having effect.
Yeah.
And the interesting thing is the way the song deals with it is it says, I suddenly realized how Moses must have felt. Whenever Moses takes his staff and throws it down on the ground and it turns into a serpent, and then suddenly the Egyptian magicians go, "What's this?" And they do the same thing.
Yeah.
And he says, your faith get violated. And he goes on and says, the thing that comes into this and what he finally answers is this. God kind of leads him to this. He goes, look, this isn't a matter of who has power.
Yeah.
This is a matter of what's going to happen when you're about to die. And all these demons that you have used that have answered your call to do all these things come for your soul.
Which they will.
That's so pretty.
So when they come for your soul, what are you going to do? He says, it kind of phrases it this way. It says, which mantra, which incantation are you going to chant to tell them to leave you alone? And he goes, I know what I would say. I'm bought with the blood of Jesus. Let me go. And then he goes on, he says, look, I don't rejoice over the fact that I have that my God has authority over you, but that my name's written in the Lamb's book of life.
Well, that brings me to an even bigger question. Do you think that's possible at that point?
What?
If a person has their entire life used demons to have this magic, do you think at the end of their life they can say, well, I'm bought by Jesus, or
So
convert
then
at the end of their life? Do you think
so-
that's a possibility? Because I personally don't.
convert at the end of their life? Yes.
The man on the cross.
Okay.
Yeah, but that's different. He was converted at the end of his life.
Okay.
Also, but he wasn't using demonic powers throughout his entire life.
Let me give you a more recent example. Okay. And it's not on his deathbed, but I want to make sure. I am sure because of our generation that you have heard of Alice Cooper.
Yes, yes, and he's a Christian.
Okay.
He-
Alice
yeah,
Cooper
just-
was
Yeah.
a musician in the 80s. And he's the one that you always heard about, that he ripped the heads off of chickens and drink their blood. And
I thought.
no, I think he did that too. He was as demonic as they get,
He really was.
and had a pastor come and meet him and led him to Christ. And now he's a very strong Christian leader. Alice Cooper. For some of you, he'd have been in a time you didn't care about music, or certainly not at the type of music you guys would have cared about.
Yeah, definitely not.
But here is the thing. What I would tell you is, I can't answer that question because God only knows the heart of man. Okay, so if a person has spent their life worshiping the devil, and near the end of their life, someone comes into their life that shows them who Jesus is and what Jesus has done for them, and they truly turn from the lifestyle they had before and surrender their life to Jesus, then yes.
And Kat Von D is another one.
Okay.
She's a tattoo artist that
Right.
just a few years ago started throwing out all her witch, and I believe that is possible. But what I'm saying, the difference is okay, they may have lived in the dark realm, they may have been leaning towards Satan more than God, but they were not actively using demonic powers to
So, but remember,
manipulate life.
the other half of this, okay? A person who, even using demonic power, in the long run is deceived. Okay,
Yeah,
they
I see
may
that.
be a wicked person. They may be okay. So look at the Apostle Paul. Okay, what was Paul like before he became Paul?
He crucified Christians.
He
persecuted
jailed, killed,
Yeah, stoned, all kinds of
stoned.
stuff.
Okay, so if a man like that can have an experience where God goes, hey, come over here, then it's hard to say there's anybody that God would go, yeah, you're too far gone.
And I
Now,
don't
so
think that God would. It's hard for me to wrap my
I
head around
understand.
somebody that's going to actively use
But-
demonic
but
powers. through their life.
remember and remember that in the context of, and to use the song as an example, the context of the song, this is the idea that he has died and now they're coming to lay claim.
Like, hey,
At that point, there is
It's
no
too
hope.
late.
Once he's died, it's too late.
it's too late.
Okay.
Jesus Film Project Street. They have gone over certain countries and they had these witch doctors and
Well, they're using demonic power.
they're using demonic power. And some of, what is demonic?
Well, understand, and this is one of those things we get into that sometimes our culture has kind of blown up.
Yeah.
There are supernatural things that are done by the devil and his minions.
Yes.
Okay. So we call that demonic. Okay. So let's name a few. Witchcraft.
Yeah.
Okay. Necromancy.
Also, necromancy.
Dealing with the dead.
What's it called?
Necromancy. Okay, it's
Speaking to the dead, the bringing it back of dead
Yeah.
zombies.
okay. So
They made like a necromancer had made a pair of pants out of a human skin, and they
yeah,
had to cut
they're
it down.
okay.
Like yeah,
But
it's just
the
really-
thing is the majority of it now looks like, and I'm going to say it this way, the majority of that kind of stuff that we see on a regular basis looks like things like the Psychic Friends Network.
Oh yes.
Okay, but remember, and I want to make sure I say this. In the book of Ephesus, or in the book of Acts, there is a moment, and Paul is wandering through one of the cities, and a young girl it is very clearly determined how this works. She is a psychic, or what we would call a psychic. And she is going around behind Paul,
Oh, yeah.
basically making fun of his mission for God. And Paul does not turn around and go, "You fake."
No.
He turns around and he casts a demon out of her. Okay, so here is the thing. Okay. And we've talked about this before. Okay. What Satan often does is he makes a counterfeit version of what God has done. Okay, so God has miracles. The devil does magic.
Yeah.
Okay, so the question then becomes, what's the difference between a miracle and magic? A miracle is God acting. It is clearly God. It has nothing to do with us, except that we were in the right place at the right time. Okay, so for example, you have somebody who is dying of an illness, and you walk in and you pray over them, and they are miraculously healed. Okay, so then in that case, what part of that did the person who went in and pray actually have? He was obedient to go pray.
Yeah.
That's it. No power came out of him. No power came out of them. It's simply the fact that he prayed and God chose to work. That's miracle. Magic, by definition, is this idea, and it's a very pagan idea, that if I go in and I walk into this same sick person and I say the right words in the right order with the right herbs, with the right whatever, then my own power heals them. Okay. Now, this is the big issue with what is called in our culture today the health and wealth movement in Christianity, that says that, if you're a child of God, then you'll never get sick, you'll never. Okay, what they typically say is they will say, if you have enough faith in God,
You'll be perfectly healthy.
then, and you ask something of God, then God is required to give it to you.
Which is not true.
Okay. Now, let me make sure you understand why I'm bringing this up. Because then you've turned the term faith into the term magic. Because if you have this belief forces God to do what you want. And that's really what they believe.
Yeah.
In fact, they will go so far as to say that because we are children of God, because the Bible says we are children of God, we, like God, are able to speak things into existence.
Which is not true.
Okay, so, and I'll give you an example from my own life. I had a family member who had a child, and my mother-in-law said, "I think he may be autistic. And you might need to look into that." And mom goes, "Oh, we don't speak evil over our children." So their belief was that if I say, "Oh,
He's
I
autistic.
think they're sick," then you're going to make it happen.
Because you're speaking.
You are going to make it happen, not God, you. And that's what we're talking when we talk about demonic things and evil power. That is typically how this works. They are God is giving them the leash to show off power. Now remember, there is nothing that happens that's outside of God's control.
Yeah.
But for us to sit there and go, oh yeah, the devil doesn't ever do anything and nothing ever happens that the devil wants, and there's no such thing as witchcraft, and there's no such thing as psychics, and there's no such thing as, but we watch these things and we think they're kind of silly. There was a show on every week for several years that was this guy standing in a room full of people supposedly talking to their dead relatives.
Oh God, I remember.
Okay, it's gotten
Oh,
bad
yeah.
enough that now they have supposed psychics who can talk to your pet.
Oh my God, yes, I've seen those too.
Okay, so now why is that
It's
dangerous?
opposite,
Because it's normalizing a behavior that the Bible says is not okay.
Yeah.
So what is going on is the demons, and remember, they would have understood it that way. And in some places you are also talking about, don't get me wrong, there was a long period in our world where mental illness and all of that was seen as a demonic thing.
Yeah.
Okay, so some of this may have been God healing mental illness, but it's also clear in some places that it is a demon.
Yeah.
It is a worker of the enemy who is destroying this person's life.
Strong,
Yeah,
but that's great.
he had some over 1,000 demons because he called himself Legion, because we are many, and a legion was over 1,000 soldiers. So what we're getting at, and I know we've kind of chased a rabbit to get back here, but what I'm trying to help you understand is that we have this discussion in church even now about whether Satan has already been thrown out of heaven or whether he's still there. The overwhelming evidence of Scripture is this: at least, and I say it this way, at least he has access.
Yeah. To what?
To heaven, to the throne of God. Well, what does it say? He says he's the accuser of the brethren. He stands before God at all times accusing us. Well, he can't stand before the throne of God accusing us if he doesn't have access.
I'll say that.
Uh-huh. Well, and by the way, let's also make sure we say that there are multiple things that cause us to fall away from God. The first and foremost and most common is our own sinful nature. For most of us, the devil has to do very little to get us to mess up. Okay.
Just put a good looking person in your way.
Now, I am not saying that there are not people that demons come and work on them. And even saying that there are some people that even the devil himself does. Why can I not say that? Because there's at least one example. Because it doesn't say that a demon went into Judas. It doesn't say that Judas decided to betray Jesus. It says that after Judas gets to the point where he's going to betray Jesus, it says the devil entered into him.
Yeah.
There is a discussion in that. He is possessed by the devil himself. Okay, so we've gone kind of a long way around this. Let's go back to Isaiah. Okay.
Sorry for the long.
Nope, you're fine. I don't mind at all. So the thing that the issue that we are coming down to mainly, though, is this. Okay. We see this. That was not the right passage. Isaiah 14.
Yes.
Okay. So what I am trying to bring up is this. I think if I were to give my opinion on this passage, and this is my opinion, opinions are like noses. Everybody has one and they all smell.
Yes.
Okay. This is a picture of a man or a nation that has decided to contend with God. Okay. And what happens to them?
They get annihilated.
But the ultimate example of one who would contend with God is the devil. And so, if for nothing else, this is an evidence of where Satan's going to end up, because he has contended with God. Right? Psalms 2. Why do the nations rage? Why do the peoples plot in vain? They say, oh, we're going to overthrow the chains of God. We're going to overthrow God and become the rulers of our own destiny. And it says that God's up in heaven going, oh my gosh, these guys are stupid.
I can just picture him saying that.
It says he laughs derisively.
What's derisively?
Making fun of.
Okay.
Okay, so it's the okay, so it's the making fun of laugh.
What verse is it?
That actual spot is in Psalms. We're back in Isaiah. We're at verse 13.
13.
Okay, it says, "You said in your heart." Okay, so notice verse 12. How you are fallen from heaven, O day star, son of the dawn. How you are cut down to the ground, you who laid the nations low. You said in your heart, I will ascend to heaven above the stars of God. I will set my throne on high. I will sit on the mount of assembly in the far reaches of the north. I will ascend above the heights of the clouds.
Who is that?
So this is the person that it is Babylon. It is the heart of the man lifted up. It is the heart of the king of Babylon, whoever this is. And it does represent the heart of the devil as well.
Yeah.
Okay, in his pride. Okay. I will make myself like the Most High. I will make myself like God. Now, let's do a little history. We are talking about a nation called Babylon. Why do you think they're called that?
Because that's where the Tower of Babel was?
Because they would have been the people that would in the area of where the Tower of Babel would have been.
Oh, I was right. That's kind of
So
cool.
watch. What was the purpose of the Tower of Babel?
To get closer to God, to get higher.
Not to get closer to God.
Oh.
This.
Oh, to
I
get
will
closer to God.
I will ascend to heaven above the stars of God. I will set my throne on high. And remember that what we're talking about when we talk about the Tower of Babel, it is pretty clear that what we are talking about is a structure called a ziggurat. It is a step pyramid.
Oh.
Okay, it is a pyramid that goes up and then levels, goes up and levels, goes up and levels, goes up and level. So it would have been a massive, kind of like the pyramids of Giza.
Okay.
Now, here's the funny thing. Okay, and this is one of the reasons that we believe that is the case, is what is a structure that you find in almost every civilization on Earth? Some form of a pyramid. The Egyptians had it. You come to South America and you'll find the Mayans and the Aztecs
Yeah.
build step pyramids and
Got it on our dollar bill.
okay, it is an image of this idea of raising yourself up. Okay.
I hate to be stupid, but who's saying this?
So this is God speaking. Or actually, God is the one doing this. The person who is speaking is the person who's being punished. I will ascend to heaven above the stars. It is this group of it is Babylon. It is the prideful. We don't want any. Oh, sorry. Okay.
It's kind of like our nature, high structure.
I wonder if there wasn't a part of that in the whole let's go to outer space thing. I wonder how much of that was played into that. If we go to outer space, we gotta be higher than God. Like, but you're not.
So notice there's nothing new under the sun. Okay. There's always been this race to get high. Now, I don't know that
Elevation.
I know.
That-
It was a huge structure. We don't know exactly where it was, but it would have been a huge structure. And remember, they're halfway done when God goes, no, 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 no.
We could switch to everybody.
So
We switched up the language.
that's when he changed all their languages.
Send everybody.
Okay, so then let's go on. So I will ascend to the heights of the clouds. I will make myself like God.
Ah.
But instead, so that is these I will ascend to heaven above the stars of God, is Isaiah quoting the one who is being struck. Now we are talking back to the striking, and this is out of God's perspective. But you are brought down to Sheol, you're brought down to the grave, to the far reaches of the pit. Those who see you will stare at you and ponder over you. And so now we move to another quoting that Isaiah is doing that God has given him of the ones who have watched his fall. Is this the man who made the earth tremble, who shook kingdoms, who made the world like a desert and overthrew its cities, who did not let his prisoners go home? All the kings of the earth, of the nations, lie in glory, each in his own tomb. But you are cast out away from your grave like a loathed branch. So notice the quote. Those who look say, well, the kings of all the nations that you defeated are in a tomb, that they still have the glory of their kingship, but you're cast off like something that is
Like in a gutter.
Yeah, in a gutter. Like a loathed branch, you're clothed with the slain, those pierced by the sword, who go down to the stones of the pit, like a dead body trampled underfoot. So part of this is discussing the idea of being so thoroughly destroyed in battle that you're not even given the benefit of a burial. You're not even given the benefit of, and by the way, remember there are some of the kings of Israel that fell under this. Saul is killed in battle, and they take his body and hang it off the wall of a city, and it is and take his head and send it, and it says that brave men went and took Saul's body off the wall at their own risk to go take him and bury him. Well, this is kind of that same idea, except nobody comes to help.
Yeah.
There's nobody left who is going to give him even the honor of a burial. See, you're clothed with the slain, those pierced by the sword, like a dead body trampled underfoot. You will not be joined with them in burial because you have destroyed your land. You have slain your people. May the offspring of evildoers never more be named. Prepare slaughter for his sons because of the guilt of their fathers, lest they rise and possess the earth and fill the face of the world with cities. So see, he's talking about this nation of Babylon, and he's talking about the king of Babylon, and he's talking about all of this, and he says, let them be wiped off the face of the earth. Well, this is the picture of the whole thing. And by the way, let's use a modern day example of this same idea. And by the way, as might be interesting, it'd be from around the same area. What did we do with Osama bin Laden?
Oh yeah, we obliterated him.
Okay, so literally the idea is bin Laden thought he was a big shot. And when we finally caught him, in order to not turn him into a martyr for a nation, they threw him somewhere in the water where no one will ever find him.
Yeah.
Well, that's what, in a way, that's what God is saying. I'm gonna obliterate you to the point that no one's ever gonna find your body. No one's ever gonna care about your body. I'm not going to let anybody come back and look at you again. And then in verse 22, okay, once again, I will rise up against them, declares the Lord of hosts, the Lord of the armies of heaven. I will cut off from Babylon name and remnant, descendants and posterity.
What's posterity?
Generations moving forward,
Okay.
children, grandchildren, great grandchildren. I will,
Posterity, good.
right, but prosperity means good. Posterity means moving for a legacy moving forward.
What verse is that?
Verse
Yeah,
22.
because mine says, I will destroy its children and its children's children.
Uh-huh.
Oh,
So,
possession of the hedgehog?
yep.
What?
So,
The
okay.
hedgehog possession?
So to use posterity, because this is always what I think of. So in the preamble to the Constitution, it says, "We, the people of the United States, in order to form a more perfect union." Okay. So the purpose of this is to form a more perfect union. We establish justice. We ensure domestic tranquility. We provide for the common defense. We promote the general welfare, and we secure the blessings of liberty to ourselves and our posterity and our children and great grandchildren and great grandchildren and great great grandchildren through all generations. And that's what he's saying. God is going to cut off their descendants. God is going to cut off them having any children.
Wiped out.
And I will make it the possession of the hedgehog. I'm
Mine
gonna.
says, I will make Babylon a desolate place of owls,
Mhm.
filled with swamps and marshes.
Yeah, there are some that say that this means owl.
Like mine doesn't say nothing about hedgehogs.
So it's what it is it's a word. If I was guessing, I don't know for sure. I'd have to go back and look. It is probably one of the words in scripture that's only used once. So there are some, and both in the Old Testament and New Testament, there are some words that they have one use in the entire Bible. Okay, so how do you figure out what one word means?
Yeah, when it's only one word.
So it is probably something similar to,
basically if he's gonna give it back to the wild animals.
right. So mine goes in and says the possession of the hedgehog, and then it says possibly porcupine or owl.
Oh,
Okay. So basically what it is saying is this. I'm going to make it the possession of the wild animals.
Yeah.
And pools of water. And by the way, this last part is the big one here. And I will sweep it with the broom of destruction.
that's pretty crazy.
That's Babylon.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, that's pretty crazy.
Okay. So as far as the discussion of Lucifer and this discussion of the devil, I think you can take in and look at the attitude of Babylon and see the attitude of the enemy.
Yeah.
And what God's final response to that kind of attitude is. I don't necessarily think that we've officially switched from talking about Babylon to talking about the devil.
No, I don't think so either. I think it's like a city after Satan's own heart.
Okay, right.
Babylon?
Yeah, Babylon. By the way, it's also not a mistake that when we get to Revelation, what is the kingdom of the enemy called?
Babylon.
Babylon.
Which,
okay, it is synonymous with the ultimate in wickedness.
there's a town called Babylon.
Yes.
Now.
Yeah.
Like who would actually want to live in a place called Babylon?
Well, it's the site of the original Babylon.
No, isn't there one in the States?
There's
too?
one in the States too, but I mean
But like-
the main one is
Over in
Yeah.
the Middle East. I'm not sure, but I know that like in The Walking Dead, there's like a new Babylon.
now that is probably a fictional.
That place is fictional, but there's an actual place here in the States that's called Babylon. Yeah, that one in The Walking Dead is totally fictional, but they call it New Babylon, which
So,
totally freaked me out.
Babylon is a village on Long Island, New York.
There you go.
That's the reason.
That makes sense,
Uh-huh.
New York.
Babylon is a village within the town of Babylon in Suffolk County, New York. It has 12,188 people at the 2020 census. It is located approximately 25 miles from New York City at the Queens border and approximately 33 miles from Bend. Its official name is the Incorporated Village of Babylon.
Chances are nobody heard of Babylon.
Yeah, it would be
So Anyway,
Like somewhere.
so we're gonna stop right there. So
Okay.
just remember, so we'll begin in chapter 14, verse 24.
Awesome.
What I was gonna tell about the Jesus Film Project